Today, we're going over a horror movie entitled The Exorcism of God. Turn off your light in your room and watch out. Kindly click the like button and subscribe. The movie starts with Peter entering the room. He found a young woman named Magali, bound to the bed and completely possessed, in that completely destroyed room. In reality, the devil had possession of her. Magali starts laughing and growling loudly out of the blue. Peter then makes a call to Father Michael, who advises him not to take any action because he has not finished his preparation and could pass away. Peter ignores him, though, and decides to perform the exorcism. Peter now starts reading the prayers, and that's when Magali's bed really starts to fly around. As Peter continues to read prayers, Satan now starts to seduce him by removing Magali's garment. This is a particularly dreadful manifestation of the devil. Peter then sprinkles holy water on her, but it's possible that she didn't feel anything. He continues to pray, and Satan causes Magali to masturbate before him, after which she falls onto the bed. Peter then goes to check on her, and she begins kissing him. Here, Peter lost his control, and maybe Satan had possessed him. Now it has been 18 years, and Father Peter lives in the countryside of Mexico. One day, a lady takes him to her home, where she sees that a kid is extremely sick. He then takes him to the hospital, where Dr. Nelson lets him know that they don't have medication and food. Then we see Peter in the church, where Nelson comes to him and tells him that they have lost 4 kids this week, to which Peter replies, "It seems like a punishment from God." Then we discover that Peter was possessed that day since he was weak. He even attempted to confess. However, Father Thomas gave him a penance. Now he has concluded that he would admit his sin before the bishop, and only then he will get peace. Then we see him with the bishop, who lets him know that 18 years prior, he had committed a sin that he didn't dare tell him. He was going to give the tape to him, which was recorded that day. Yet the bishop provides him with a huge amount of money so he can help the kids in the orphanage. And seeing this, Peter changes his plan. Then we see Peter praying and cursing himself for his wrongdoing when he hears somebody scream. He goes to the church and sees that the idol of Jesus was absent from there. Then, some noise comes from behind when he sees blood on the ground. Peter sees a man crying, standing towards the edge of the church, who was shrouded in blood. When Peter goes to him, he sees that he is the satanic type of Jesus, because of which he gets frightened and tumbles down. Then he puts his cross memento around his neck when he sees a door moving. Peter grabs a stand and starts walking towards that side. However, there's nobody there. Yet, when he turns, Satan assaults him. And when he awakens from his sleep, here, he gets a call from a prison that lets him know that something abnormal is going on with the detainee there. She particularly wants to meet him. Now Peter enters the call of that young lady whose name is Esperanza. She takes a look at him and tells him that Easter will bring a supernatural occurrence. Peter asks her what her identity is, on which Satan says that they definitely know each other, and here we come to know that this is the same Satan that Peter confronted 18 years prior. Then Peter lets them know that quite a while in the past he did his first exorcism, and afterward he swore that it would be the last. However, Magali comes there, and we discover that Esperanza is really Peter's daughter. Then we see that Father Peter awakens from rest, and he couldn't move his body. Here he sees that the door of his room opens by itself. Then we see Satan sitting on his bed. Noticing it, Peter begins reading prayers. Lastly, he comes out of the paralysis. In any case, out of nowhere, Satan gets him from behind, and he sees that Satan is sitting on him, and afterward, he gets up with a jerk. Then we see that another kid has passed on, and Nelson expresses that they had no infections. Next, Peter goes to the bishop and yells at him about Esperanza. The priest allows him to do the exorcism. Peter says that he wants someone to go along with him this time. Now we see that Peter had called Father Michael, and they are extremely glad to meet one another. Here, Peter tells him the truth. He says that Satan, named Balban, had left Megali. However, he came into him, and afterward, he just left. Next, we see that Peter burns that tape, and here we come to know that the day Satan raped Megali by possessing Peter, after which Satan left him. At the point when everybody came in, Megali had recovered, and they thought Peter had expelled Satan. Now Father Michael comes to him, and Peter lets him know that he sees Jesus in his dreams, possessed by Satan. Hearing this, Father Michael says that Balban wants to possess him. 2,000 years prior, he attempted to possess Christ. However, he was defeated. And now, if he wants to possess him, there should be a reason, and he is part of his plan. Then we see a nun praying when blood dribbles on her head, and she sees that the idol of Mother Mary is absent from there. She then hears a few sounds and sees that there is blood splattered on the ground. Some distance away, she sees a cloth lying, and when she lifts it up, there is a child under it, which she gets extremely frightened seeing. After this, an idol transforms into a demon and starts walking towards her. Yet, when she looks back, there is nobody there. She stands to leave, however, Satan drags her away. Then we see kids resting, when a youngster hears the sound of somebody singing. He gets up and shuts the door. However, somebody thumps on the door noisily and says, "Now it is time to play." Now every one of the kids was extremely frightened, and somebody breaks the door, and the nun was standing there, seeing which kids begin screaming. Hearing their shouts, Peter and Father Michael run towards them. Here, the nun was totally possessed and was about to attack the kids. Then Megali comes there and stops her. However, the nun begins strolling her. Peter and Father Michael then come there and begin doing an exorcism on her, and lastly, expel Satan. They then head towards Esperanza, where Satan lets Peter know that he will bury his kids here. Father Michael provokes Satan to prove himself, which Satan vomits on him. After this, he paralyzes his body, because of which the father tumbles down. Now, Peter and Father Michael begin reading prayers, which makes Satan torture. However, he quiets down after some time, and afterward, out of nowhere, he charges at his father and attacks him. Peter attempts to bring her down, however, she hits him as well. Then, Nelson gives her an injection, which makes her unconscious. After this, Peter clears up for the jail guard that they need to empty this jail since it is very dangerous for everyone. But the guard does not agree, to which Nelson says that he will make every one of the detainees unconscious. Now, Father Michael explains to him that Satan can successfully break his confidence, and no matter what happens, he shouldn't make any deal with Satan. Then we see Nelson making the detainees oblivious. However, we see a girl looking out the keys of the watchman. Now, in the evening, the two of them come for an exorcism when the light of the jail gets switched off. Here, Nelson sees that the doors of the cells are open. The two of them go to Esperanza's cell, where something was written on the wall. Then they hear a few sounds there, and out of nowhere, the door of the cell closes. Nelson sees the dead body of the guard. Seeing that, he gets exceptionally frightened. And when he hears a girl crying, he sees the girl standing there in a possessed state. Afterward, another girl assaults him from behind. Here, the cell door opens by itself, and the two of them begin searching for Nelson. They see that every one of the cells were open, and afterward, they hear the sound of something moving, and Nelson moving toward them. Nelson advises them to flee, however, all the girls come there. The priest begins exorcising them by reading prayers, because of which they all begin to suffer. However, Satan likewise comes there and he burns the cross of the priest. Then we see that Esperanza is strolling towards them, and the prayers were not having any effect on them. All at once, a girl approaches Peter, yet Nelson saves him. After this, Peter and Father begin fleeing, yet Satan stops Father, and a girl attacks him. However, he kills her. Then the two of them come to the kitchen, where Father becomes furious with Peter and asks him, what sin is he still carrying? Peter uncovers that Esperanza is his daughter. Here, the priest lets him know that now he will never be able to defeat Balban, nor can he save his kids and daughter. Peter requests that he save them, yet Father uncovers that when he saved a kid's life, he had offered his spirit to Balban and lost every one of his powers. The Father clears up for him that, regardless, he should not make a deal with Balban. After this, he dies, and the girls break the door and come inside. Peter escapes from them and secures himself in another room. He then records a video wherein he uncovers that while doing an exorcism 18 years before, Balban possessed him and sexually abused Magali, giving Magali a child, and she is his girl. Then he sends that video to the bishop. Next, he comes out again, and those girls come to go after him, yet Peter debilitates them by reading prayers. Then he sees that Satan has come there as Jesus, with the cross on his shoulder. He recaps towards him to go after him, yet Peter wrecks him in the force of his prayers, but a young lady assaults him from behind and makes him oblivious. Now, when Peter wakes up, he is tied to a seat. Here, Satan puts an upside-down cross on Peter's head and starts reading prayers in reverse, which makes extraordinary torment. After this, Satan begins reading his prayer again and begins expelling God from Peter's body, because of which he screams boisterously, and every one of the kids in the orphanage is choking. Seeing this, Nun attempts to open the door, yet she hears the growl of Satan. What's more, she sees Satan walking toward her, who starts attacking her. Here, Peter becomes courageous and starts perusing God's prayers, which creates problems for Satan. After this, Satan begins strangling Peter, yet Peter peruses the prayers, because of which Satan's body begins burning. Peter orders him to leave his daughter's body, on which Satan discusses making a deal with him. On the other hand, Satan was killing the kids. Here, Satan says that he will leave this body, yet all the kids will push off with him to hell. However, Peter disagrees with him, on which Satan says if he permits God to expel him from him, every one of his kids and his daughter will be saved. Now, Peter makes a deal, after which Esperanza faints. On the other hand, the nun additionally expels that demon from there and sees that every one of the kids was totally fine and was sitting on their beds. The following morning, Peter brings Esperanza outside, and she was totally fine. After this, we see that the media is covering Peter, and everybody began thinking about him as a saint. Now the bishop comes to Peter, where he lets him know that he has deleted the video and that there is a unique consular occupation for him in the Vatican. All of a sudden, Esperanza comes to him and requests that he bless her. She and the nun express profound gratitude to him and leave from that point. Furthermore, here we see that he is actually Balban, and the bishop is likewise in his control. Peter detects something here, and we discover that Esperanza is now an angel. Next, we see Peter at the Vatican, where he says that the evil ones won't acquire the realm of God. They will acquire the earth. And the film ends. If you've watched this video, you're awesome. Thank you. If you want to see more movie recaps like this, click the subscribe button to become a part of our family.